Am I being a jerk for not giving up the wedding venue to my pregnant sister, even though she needs it more? Part 1. My fiancé and I have been together for 8 years and engaged for 3 years. I was in the middle of my PhD and trying to juggle the wedding preparations. Although my fiancé did most of the work, everything was perfect because the venue of our dreams was booked until after my graduation. So we booked the venue of our dreams 3 years in advance. It was a very beautiful venue, and the only available date was September this year. My sister got engaged to her fiancé a few months ago, and they plan to get married next spring, but they haven't decided on a venue yet, just some suppliers and a date. Yesterday, our parents invited us to a family barbecue in a Maserati SE. At the meeting, my sister announced that she was pregnant, and everyone was very happy for her. My brother-in-law is a good man. My mother asked my sister if the wedding was still being postponed because of the baby. She said no, and that she hoped to move the wedding to September. We don't get many guests from outside the town, so they can attend both weddings. No problem. Nan was very happy and asked if her sister needed help planning a wedding at such short notice. My sister turned to her and said, "That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I really hope we can use your venue. I really can't go to my pregnancy class and plan a wedding at the same time. It's too stressful for me. I think it's really important for me to have a wedding. Really important. Weddings are really important to me. 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 Weddings are really important. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. It's really important to me. The wedding is really important to me. I'm just saying, it's kind of a big deal. I don't know, I really want to secure the venue, and she stormed out crying. Nan told me I was being selfish because she needed the venue more than I did. I tried to defend myself, my mom said. You waited 3 years. What's a few more months going to kill? When has your sister ever asked you for anything? After a few minutes, my fiancé really got angry and we left. My sister called me crying and said that I always get what I want and that this time I didn't do anything for her, which is so unfair. My father said that it's just a venue and that what matters is the person you marry. He had a point, but we had been planning it for a long time. My fiancé was so angry with my family that he didn't even want my sister to come. Now my family is threatening to say they won't come because I'm being selfish and my sister needs the venue more than I do because having a baby is too stressful. Part 2. My Bill calls me to apologize for the inconvenience. He tells me he's already discussed it with my sister, who told him she won't be asking. He's now very angry with her. Part 2. My Bill calls me to apologize for the inconvenience. He told me that he had discussed it with my sister, and she told him that she would not be asking. He is now very angry with her and warned me that my sister is accusing me of possibly ruining her marriage. My father has sent me about 5 text messages to the effect that I hope you are happy, your sister hasn't stopped crying since yesterday, etc. My fiancé and I have decided to kick my sister out of the wedding party and replace her with my aunt, who is the only one on my side. We haven't decided whether to invite all my family or not. Besides, my mother took it upon herself to rat on us by calling my fiancé's parents and telling them it would be best if my sister took the blame, since she's pregnant and there's a history of preeclampsia in the family. This means that my future father-in-law told them to give up and basically tore my mother's foreign exchange expectations so much that if they continue to favor, they will lose me. So my mother is also crying now, saying that my father-in-law is an asshole. Which is really sad. It seems to come directly from a bad soap opera. My in-laws are currently driving over to drop off some dinner and wine and basically tell me not to worry, that no matter what happens, they will be my safety net. I cried for the third part of Happiness, so it wasn't long, but the post caused quite a stir. I was expecting just a few responses, but instead I got an overwhelming outpouring of support. What confused me was that the story somehow made it to the mainstream media. Let's get back to the story itself. A lot has happened since the story went viral online. My sister saw the story while browsing social media and lost her mind, accusing me of being a lunatic and distorting the facts. My sister learned about it through various media channels and posted on Reddit that I was being unfair to her, that she was my family, and that she was making the request kindly because she loved me. She also emphasized that the opinions of strangers on the internet don't matter because family is more important and I should focus on making my family happy. The only text message I replied to was this: I'm sorry you feel that way. I didn't distort the facts. You may have noticed that I didn't describe your tone or exaggerate anything. Maybe you had different thoughts that night, but I digressed. I'm tired of submitting to your wishes all my life. I've always been your servant and doormat. Remember all the birthdays I had to share with you because you threw a fit because you didn't get a present, or you cried and made me fill out job applications for you. But what hurts me the most until now is that you ruined my to your wishes all my life. I have always been your servant and doormat. Remember all the birthdays I had to share with you, the tantrums you threw because you didn't get presents, or the times you cried and made me fill in job applications for you. But what hurt me most until now was that you ruined my graduation. I've had enough. I admit I spoiled you too, but if you want to get married before the baby is born, I won't spoil you anymore. You can look at Hotel X, they offer last-minute weddings. I spent too much time planning my wedding to give it to you. If you want to ruin our relationship because of this, then go ahead. I'll sleep well, because I know it's not my fault. She only sent me a message saying you must really love me and then blocked me. She unblocked me this morning and sent me this text from the wedding planner. Hello, dear. I received a message from your mother, and we rebooked the wedding planner. It's not my fault that she only sent me a message saying that you must really love me and then blocked me. She unblocked me this morning and sent me a greeting from the wedding planner. Dear, I received a message from your mother, and we rebooked the wedding planner. My parents have not actually written to me since my father-in-law's accident. My brother. Yes, I have a brother, but he lives in another city and did not attend the barbecue, which is why I did not mention him. Besides, he was initially unable to attend the wedding for work reasons, but changed his plans after hearing about everything and contacted me to find out what had happened, as he had heard a strange story from Mum and Dad. Mum told him that I had offered to give up the venue to my sister before the barbecue and humiliated her. I told him the truth, and he had no doubt about my words. We talked a lot about our parents' behavior, and he admitted that he moved partly because of our parents. He told me that my mother learned about it from the post and got angry at me because I betrayed the family. I did not write to my parents as many of you suggested. You suggested that I write because I have to accept the fact that they love my sister more than me. At the wedding, we sat directly with most of the suppliers and the venue and set up passwords. We haven't talked to our planner yet, which is why my sister's text made me so worried. We also canceled catering paid for by our parents, and in the short term we won't be able to get the full catering we want. but our friends and the fiancé's family will help us prepare a buffet, everyone will chip in, and it will be our bachelorette party, because we now have to spend more money on food. We canceled the bachelorette party and we'll have a cooking party with friends and family. Thanks again for showing me how toxic my family is. If they apologize from the bottom of their hearts, I'll try to forgive them and allow them to attend my wedding, but if they don't, then I still have my brother to walk down the aisle with me, and my aunt. Part 4, we called the planner, who was so shocked that she told me she hadn't spoken to my mother as much as she had since the day we booked the venue. She assured me that even if they called to say I wanted to change something, I would have to be there to make any changes. So we informed everyone who was working on our wedding, and they offered to do it for a reduced price. Update: I hope this time it won't be deleted, or at least give me a damn reason. Mod Smiley. A few days passed, and we luckily solved many problems. Passwords were set, security measures were in place for the suppliers, recipes for family and friends were chosen, and I would soon start treatment. Unfortunately, some disturbing things also happened. My sister, of course, is fighting me on Facebook, constantly posting negative and aggressive comments, saying that I've depressed her, etc. I've received many messages from her friends saying that I should treat her that way. I don't want to mention the matter of Bill, who wants to tell his story when he's ready. I've blocked all online harassment, including my sister's, but 2 days ago, my sister's best friend spray-painted my car. I called the police, and so did my neighbor, who has a hobby of spying on widows and watching people. She recognized them too. She's a grumpy lady, but actually very sweet once you get to know her. What's making me angry now is that after not speaking to my parents for a few days, they called to ask if we could clear the air. I was worried, but agreed to meet them at the apartment with my fiancé. When they arrived, you could tell my mother had been crying, and to be honest, it made me sad for the whole 10 minutes. Many of you said that they might be biased in favor of my sister to avoid a breakdown, or that she might have been diagnosed with some kind of illness, which is why they were so good to her. Breakdown, or that she might have been diagnosed with some kind of illness, so they doted on her. It turned out that my sister also, as many of you suspected, had no medical history, diagnosis, or examination. We started awkwardly chatting and then started talking about it. My father first asked why we had canceled the caterer, and my fiancé replied that we didn't want to give them any leverage. Both of them, my father acted very angry and said he would never do that, to which I said that it was better to be safe than sorry. My mother continued by saying that I was being disrespectful in the way I was speaking to them, and I said that everything they had said and done over the past few days had been disrespectful. We had another heated argument about the wedding venue, and in response my father reiterated that it didn't matter where you got married, what mattered was who you married. Finally, I snapped back at him. You want me to say yes, Dad, but the strange thing is that this only applies to me, not to my sister, as long as she marries Bill. Where she gets married doesn't matter, right? There was dead silence. My father's face was red as a tomato, he was breathing heavily like a fish out of water, and my mother was quietly crying again beside me, so I said, "Okay, I'm waiting for your reasons." My father pounded on the table and started talking about family and sacrifice, and how a loving family should do everything they can to make each other happy. I simply responded, "Just like you tried to make me happy on my graduation day, you know, when my sister ruined my cake because she wasn't in the spotlight." My mother went quiet again and whispered, "Why do you hate us so much?" I looked at her and said, "I could ask you the same question." No, my parents didn't know what they had, but they weren't prepared to admit it. My mother tried to make me feel guilty, saying my sister was so miserable because people were always judging her and she hadn't been out of the house for days. My father, on the other hand, changed the subject, saying that my little sister just needed more time and attention because she was the youngest, etc., basically justifying her behavior. I told them that I felt hurt because I could now see their blatant favoritism, and that they didn't even try to hide the fact that they loved my sister more. My mother tried to say that wasn't true and that we all loved you the same. I didn't accept that. I opened the list I had written on my phone, which had every point I could remember about them putting my sister before me. It was a long list, some with dates, some with more specific circumstances. When I was finished, my parents were shocked and almost tearful. They tried to explain once again that I was wrong, but I said this conversation was pointless. They either arranged a family for us and apologized to me, or they would not be invited to the wedding. They left and never called to give me an update on the wedding. I finally have some time to write an update. I'm sorry it took so long, but I want to say that there have been some changes in my life. But you're here mainly to see how my family reacted after the wedding. After my last phone call with my parents, they didn't give up their position. The bad guys. I'm responsible for my sister's depression and her failed relationship. Things got to the point where I had to block them and change my phone number because they were contacting me from relatives' phones. It was really frustrating, especially at a time that was supposed to be so special. I was harassed by my sister and her entourage on Facebook and Instagram, so I simply deleted those accounts. It was mentally exhausting, but my husband's family and friends and my brother helped me through it. I basically cut off all contact with my family who were insisting on the wedding date. A few days before the wedding, my grandmother came to my house and begged me to let her attend the wedding. We had a long conversation and she ended up apologizing to me, even though she still didn't understand why the date had been changed. But she didn't want to pressure me and just wanted to support me. We hugged it out and made up, but our relationship hasn't returned to normal yet. The bachelorette party was great. We stayed up until dawn and everything tasted delicious. My husband made a 3-tiered cake. The morning of the wedding was really nice and relaxed. My bridesmaids and I got ready. We had a little wine and took some photos. My dress fit perfectly and I looked beautiful. But then it was time to go to the ceremony. We took some photos with friends at the venue when I saw my sister's car pull up. To be honest, I was in a bit of a panic. I had no trousers or tuxedo with me. A friend ran to the venue to find one of the security guards we had hired. I really didn't want another Hulk smash at my wedding. She was crying angrily and started swearing as soon as she saw me. Apparently, I was a dirty person and had made her fiancé break up with her. She was like possessed, and at that moment I could only feel sympathy for her. One thing to explain is that in the morning, the plants on the grounds are always watered by some sprinkler system, so the ground is a bit muddy. What happened next happened very quickly. My sister bent down to get the mud and was about to throw it at me in my wedding dress when my maid of honor rushed at her and pushed her down, landing her butt in the flowers. A few seconds later, security arrived and took her away. I didn't even want to call the police. I just wanted her to leave me alone. The next few days were fantastic. I married my best friend, the love of my life and my rock. My brother walked me down the aisle. We both teared up during our vows. Sure, I missed my parents, but that's life. The wedding was a lot of fun. My husband and his groomsmen worked out a choreography to a Taylor Swift song. And the speeches at the wedding were like a stand-up comedy club. After we returned from our honeymoon, I decided to go to another city to look for work. I didn't want to lose my friends, but I felt I needed to say a definitive goodbye to the past. I found a new job at a university in a big city, and we are currently moving, but the biggest change is probably the most cliché one. I'm pregnant. A honeymoon baby, and we haven't told anyone yet, for fear of what might happen, so apart from my husband and me, you good people are the first to know. I'm so excited, just writing this has made me tear up. It's not what we planned a few years ago, but we're still happy. I only hear news about the rest of my family through people in town, and my sister is still going around saying that I'm the reason Bill broke up with her, that I tried to slander her, or that she moved back in with her parents and refused to work. Nan told me that the last time she saw my parents, they looked exhausted because my sister was acting like a baby. I think their parenting style is affecting them. All I can say is that I'm really happy now. Losing my family was painful, but ultimately, staying away from toxic people was the best thing I could have done. I now have a husband and a honeymoon, my own family, and a backbone. Thanks to Reddit, it convinced me that I wasn't being selfish and that my family wasn't wrong. Thank you all so much for writing supportive comments. I even got therapy, but I must say, I'm really enjoying life. Thank you for everything. This is an update to the graduation story mentioned in the post. Hulk smashes the graduation cake. Someone asked me, since I was sick and bored out of my mind, so I wanted to tell you the story. It happened not long ago, so I remember it very well. That day I submitted my thesis and defended it. It is a German tradition that once you have completed your doctorate, you are given a black graduation hat with patterns and little toys on it that best represent you. I glued them on my hat, and I really like one of them. I glued a gummy worm on my hat because I eat them a lot. We booked a small auditorium at the university to celebrate my fiancé, and friends decorated the auditorium, providing coffee, snacks, and drinks. My fiancé also made a beautiful cake with homemade marshmallow fondant and a gradient from yellow to pink. Finally, after snacking, chatting, and even dancing, it was time for speeches. My friends and my boss said they were very proud, etc. And then my fiancé came and talked about my accomplishments in life so far, and my sister completely broke down and started screaming and crying like I killed her cat. My mom signaled my boyfriend to stop speaking and ran to my sister. My dad was already kneeling next to her, comforting her. Everyone was a little overwhelmed. My mom came up to me and asked me to give a little speech about my sister's achievements. I asked my mom why she told me she had been rejected from the master's program. I think I looked annoyed because my mom said angrily, "What do you know? Forget it." Then she told my dad, who managed to get my sister to come down and take her home. Dad took her arm and they started to walk out. Oh no, my sister had discovered that the cake was missing again and was crying like a madwoman. She smashed my effing cake and everyone fell silent. My dad dragged my sister away without even an apology. My mom just muttered, "My poor child," and I started to cry. My friends and fiancé went to comfort me, but my mom was texting my dad to see if my sister was okay. She followed me to the bathroom and scolded me for not taking action when I saw my sister crying. I told her that this scene hurt me a lot. My mom just said that I have to understand my sister because this is a difficult time for her and she didn't have a nice graduation like I did. Then she left. We tried to continue the celebration, but it was really not possible. When we got home, I went home early to find my hat. I found that the fudge worm packaging stuck to the hat had been torn off. Later I found out that it was my sister who did it because she was craving fudge worms.